Good morning. Monday Morning Quarterback, episode 4, going live. Wanted to do something a little different to start the episode today. We're going to give you a quick tour of our showroom and then back into the shop, and then we'll start with our questions. So, this is our showroom at our current headquarters. Current because we're actually going to be moving in about a month to a new location on the west side of Brownsburg. It's going to better suit our needs and our growing product line, and we'll have more on that later. But so currently we've got some trophies our quarter midget drivers have won over the years. Ultimate Challenge trophy won by John Stambro. Some bricks from the Brickyard. Just some cool things we've gathered from our customers over the years. A lot of quarter midget trophies. Some other neat things we've won throughout the years. Guitar from Nashville. Hoping to win some more of those this coming week. This is a neat trophy. Nick Foss won the No Way Out 40, and that was the very first race for a set of CSI shocks back in 2009. So No Way Out 40 is coming up again this week. We'd love to win it again. Some customer pictures, some shocks. This is kind of the showroom leading back in. Jake's office, talking to a customer. Unfortunately, Jake's wearing a Falcon shirt today. We hate to share that with you guys. Me being a big Saints fan, that's a rivalry we have. So just some pictures and things customers have sent in, some new ones that we haven't hung up as we're going to be building out our new showroom. So back into the shop. This is kind of our PB area where the new shocks are built. And then you see each shock builder's kind of got his own bay, shock dyno tools and everything. Shocks that are in for repair, kind of our weekly schedule. And once they're washed back there in the back, they come back up here for getting decaled and boxed up and everything. Over here on the other side of the shop, this is got our torsion bar dyno, laser etching machine where we mark everything, kind of an area where we build shock adjuster cables and whatnot. So just a quick little tour of our current location. As I said, we're going to be moving about 2 miles away to a new spot on the west side of Brownsburg. We'll kind of go back up. It's my office. Trophy won by my grandfather and uncle's sprint car back in 1980, and NARC trophy. Some things some customers have given me, some Indy 500 qualifying pictures, picture with me and Fox Boys and Stambro after a win, me and my dad at a go-kart race, some family sprint car pictures. So kind of show you guys all that before we pack it up and move to a new location. We will get set up here now to answer your questions. Bear with me. All right. Get this adjusted here. All right. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We gave that little quick tour of current shop so you can see what we got going on here. As I said earlier in the video, I guess about a month from today, we're going to be moving to our new location on the west side of Brownsburg, right off of 267. So not too far from where we're currently located, and I'm going to be in the process here in the next month of getting that shop built out exactly how we need. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Last week we were in Nashville, Tennessee for the Icebreaker, kind of the first big quarter midget race kickoff in the Midwest. Good event for all of Team CSI. Colin Mitchell with a couple track records and a feature win. James Andrechuk with a feature win, and Boston Oliver with a feature win. So that was a good start for us. And had another couple wins in the micro ranks. Ryan Timms won at Red Dirt Speedway out in Oklahoma. He won the Tulsa Shootout in the junior sprint division for us this year, so happy to be working with him in the micros. And AJ Hopkins, who many of you know worked for us for a long time and is still a good friend of ours, he picked up the non-wing win at DeCoin over the weekend. So good start to the season for all of our customers. And this weekend we'll be going back to Nashville for the Dixie Thunder Clash. And then we'll also have representation at the No Way Out 40 down in North Vernon. So race season's in full swing here in the Midwest finally. Seems like it's been a while. So anybody who is tuned in, if you have questions about shocks, suspension, race cars, whatever you got, feel free to just type that question in and we'll answer them as we go. We have a couple questions on my computer screen here that were asked last week, and then a couple that were emailed in. So we'll kind of answer those, and we'll take a break as we go through if anybody that's tuned in has a question. And again, this is just a informal, I should say, way for all of our customers and anybody who participates in any of the divisions that we service, whether you're a CSI customer or not, just a way to get some questions answered. If you left the racetrack with a few question marks and you're wanting to bounce an idea off somebody, this is a way to do it, and we're going to answer those questions as best we can, and we're going to do this every Monday all season. So we hope everybody enjoys it. Please subscribe to our Facebook page and get notified when we go live, so you can watch every week and share with your friends. So we want to help everybody who's out there racing and try to get everyone pointed in the right direction and improve their program. So first question that came in last week was different length quarter midget springs and the effects. So typically when you're changing your springs, the most common quarter midget springs is like a 3.5, 4, 4.25, 5. Typically with those small changes in height, you're not going to see a real effect on the racetrack. However, I will caution the really short springs. They tend to get into a coil-bound state fairly easily. I would steer away from the really short 3-inch springs. We've seen several right rear shock bumper. Okay, we'll talk about a right rear bumper on a wing car when I finish this one, Chip. Appreciate the question. So typically I steer away from the short quarter midget springs as we've seen the actual height change greatly from run to run or throughout the course of a race. They actually lose height. Whether that is due to the quality of the spring or the height, we've just had really good luck with the hypercoil stuff, which is 4.25. There's other good springs on the market, and that's what I would stick with, the 4-inch height and up. I wouldn't run those really short springs. So question from John Randall as well. So we'll do Chip Graham's question first, and that was right rear bump rubber on a wing car and when and why. So you're seeing this more commonly, and guys are running that bump rubber on the right rear, and they're doing it for two reasons. One, to hold attitude in the car. So when we run the left rear bump rubber, we're eliminating travel and increasing drive. One of the problems is we'll get winged down so far on the left rear that the right rear is getting out of the track. Or early in the race, on a restart or an initial start, the car kind of gets rolled up on the right front. You don't get the right attitude. You don't have enough wing speed. There's not air going to the wings. And rather than the car laying left, it's kind of more neutral, doesn't want to roll the corner really nice. With the bump rubber on the right rear and the left rear, we can kind of try to force the car to keep that attitude. And it has been a great tuning tool. Running them across the back as well has allowed us to run some softer bars, which helps on initial restarts, the car getting the right attitude quicker. You don't have to get as much wing speed built up for the car to lay left. So it's a feel thing. It's something you're going to have to work with and determine what works best for you and your program. But I definitely think there's some gains there And Graham, if you have more questions on that and want more detailed explanation as far as what bump rubbers we're running, when and where, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email, and that's Garrett@csishocks.com, and I'd be more than happy to share our experience. We really got into that dual bump rubbers across the back late last year and have continued to do it this year. So I'd be more than happy to work through that with you. John Randall asked why the 15 LT over the RS17 for a 305. Kind of a loaded question. We have some 305 guys who go really well with our RS17, which is a gas shock. The 15 LT is a large body twin tube, and that particular shock, we tried to model the piston we used in that off of the Pro shock. So we built a nice piston. We tried to build the shock where we could get it more repeatable than we were used to with the Pro shock, but get that same curve, because a lot of people liked that curve. And that curve is a really soft low speed that then ramps up and blows off. So the car tends to travel more with that shock curve, and tends to just have a little bit more overall grip, where the RS17 has a lot of control, and that's why it's so beneficial in the non-wing application, but we seem to lack a touch of grip versus the LT. So the 305s, where you don't have a lot of wing speed, it's really helpful to get the car to hold the attitude you want and lay left and do all the things it's supposed to. That being said, we've made some great strides with the RS17 wing package. We've got a lot of guys that are running the RS17 on the right rear only in our wing cars, holding that nice attitude and helping the car up against the cushion, because it has way more control than the LT. Kind of the happy medium is our new 18 LT2, the double adjustable, and so we're able to get a number of different curves with that, because that's got a deflective disc piston. We've got a number of piston options for that shock, and it's rebound and compression adjustable. So it's kind of the ultimate in tunability, and we're seeing more guys lean towards that shock than the traditional 15 LT. We're able to build about any combination you want in that shock, and it's really affordable for a double adjustable at $599 retail. Most doubles are $750 to even $1,000. So another question came in on tuning shocks and bump rubbers on a quarter midget. So my personal experience on the quarter midget side, we've been very successful with bump rubbers in the parking lots. Couple reasons. Typically the parking lots have less grip, and typically the tracks are rough. So what we've been able to do is decrease our spring rate on the right side. So if we're normally running 100-pound springs on the right, we're now running 80s with the bump rubber. The softer spring allows the car to get in and out of the holes and the bumps better, has a smoother ride, but then as it transitions into the corner and sits on those bump rubbers, we're getting increased grip. So we've been very successful for a number of years with the bump rubbers on the parking lot stuff. We have some heavier drivers that are running them on the high bank stuff to eliminate travel. So some of the kids in the heavy classes, they're able to use that. And it basically what we're doing is we have a two-stage spring at this point. So if your main coilover spring's 80 pounds, you're traveling at 80 pounds until you get to the bump rubber, and then the rate goes up substantially. So it gives the ability to be able to initiate roll with that softer spring, but then load the tire adequately by getting into the bump rubber and applying load to that tire. So it's worked really well. We have some guys that have ran them on dirt and different applications, but me personally with my cars, I always go to the parking lot set up on bump rubbers, and that helps for sure. Had another customer email a question while we're on quarter midgets, and they asked the benefit of the through shaft shock. So I brought a through shaft shock in here to show you all. So through shaft quarter midget shock, what's the benefit? So the benefit is we have zero rising gas rate through displacement. So even if you're running a quarter midget shock that doesn't have a Schrader valve, it still has pressure in it. So even if there is zero gas pressure at full extension. Okay, so a typical quarter midget shock, there's a divider piston about here, and then this top part is an air or gas chamber, and then down here is the oil. Well, as the shock is compressed, that divider piston goes up inside that chamber, making the area smaller, which the gas pressure then increases because the area got smaller. So on a light race car like a quarter midget, that rising gas rate can provide some inconsistencies, where with the through shaft shock, whenever the shaft goes in, it comes out the other end. So our divider piston never moves, so we can have a true zero gas pressure increase through displacement. So we've been running the standard shocks on James Andrechuk's cars that I take care of, just trying to hone in and develop that. Colin Mitchell, who we work with closely as well, he's been on the through shafts. So you can be successful with both. I still think there's a slight advantage with the through shafts. We haven't quite bridged that gap. It's a more expensive shock. There's a lot more pieces in there. Hi, KT. and so that's the case. But we wanted to have a more cost-effective shock, and so that's why we've been working on the standard. So there's two options there. What I tell people is if you're competing at the highest level, national races, you're trying to win grands and brickyards and those type of events, get the through shaft. If you're racing at a local and regional level, the standard shocks is really all you need. So another question that was emailed in was a customer who's thinking his shock is losing gas pressure. So this is something common we get. 9 times out of 10, the shock isn't losing gas pressure, but it's getting lost when you go to seal the inflation tool to it. So the easy check, if you push the Schrader valve in and oil shoots out of the shock, we have a problem. So either the seal has went bad in the divider piston's broke, something of that nature. That's a pretty rare occurrence on our shocks. If you push the Schrader valve in and nothing happens, more than likely you're not leaking gas pressure, because if gas was leaking inside the shock, that means oil was leaking into the gas chamber, and you would have that oil residue when you depress the Schrader valve. So more than likely when you go to put your inflation tool on, it's not getting sealed up and the gas pressure is dropping through. Okay, so a couple ways we can fix that. If your little copper crush washer on your inflation tool is smashed and it's no longer sealing, you can put a little bitty O-ring in there, and that'll seal up, and so you can check your gas pressure without losing any. The other way is if the Schrader valve inside of the shock has became loose, you can tighten that up. So just a valve core tool like you'd use on your tire, tighten that up a little bit, and your problem should be fixed. So don't panic. There's probably nothing wrong with your shock. We're just losing pressure when we're putting the inflation tool on. Fairly common. Had a question on gas pressure, standard shock versus through shaft. So the through shaft is fixed. We fill it here. There's a bladder in there. We fill it, plug it off. The customer can adjust the gas pressure. You don't have to worry about that. On the standard quarter midget shock, depending on the class, the gas pressure varies. If you're looking for a specific answer, go ahead and shoot me an email. The new JR3s, kind of the same scenario. We've capped that off so the customer doesn't have to worry about adjusting the pressure. It was a tuning tool that I like to have personally, but a lot of customers just didn't want to deal with the Schrader valve. So with the JR3, we did away with that. Anybody else have any questions from the weekend and anything we can answer? We appreciate you guys tuning in, asking questions. Beneficial for yourself and everybody. We just want this to be an open forum to try to help all of our customers. Can you hurt a gas shock by running air instead of nitrogen? No, you're not gonna hurt my RJ. You're my hero. You're not gonna hurt the shock, Justin, by running air. What we don't want to do is we want to make sure no moisture is getting in there. So if you have perfectly dry air, you can do that. Air. What pressure is in a JR3? So we're running zero pressure. We have a spring behind the divider piston. We're running zero pressure, but it still does build pressure through displacement. So, any other questions from anybody? No. Well, we appreciate everybody tuning in. If you think of a question after this, you can go ahead and comment on this link that we save, and we'll jot it down for next week. And you can always email me a question or call if you need something immediately. Any plans to make a spring with a retainer currently to what Slade does? So we'll answer that real quick before we sign off. We don't have second shift. You missed the spring height. When we post the video, is one of the first things we went over. So we don't have an issue or an intention to build the spring for the left rear. We feel our new two-stage kit is more tunable and a lot more user-friendly than a spring. So we talked about this a little bit last week, but the spring, it's very linear, and if your gap is off at all, it makes it really hard to use. The car will sit on it and then bounce off. Where the two-stage bump rubber system that we're using, it's really user-friendly. It's soft and then slowly ramps up. If your gap's off a little bit, it's not affected. So we're trying to achieve the same thing. We're just going about it a little bit differently. The springs are great in a stock car application where you have a heavy car and you're deteriorating that bump rubber a lot, or there's a lot of heat and the heat's affecting that bump rubber. Neither of those are instances in our markets that have become an issue. So we're going to stick with the two-stage bump rubber kit we've created just because we feel there's real advantages to how user-friendly it is, and it is very tunable. So if you want more detailed information on that, like I say, feel free to reach out to me and I can show you kind of what we've come up with during testing and why we feel so passionate about that kit that we released. Well, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. And John Randall, you have a video of the new spring rubber system. Oh, John has a video. Okay, yeah, that would be great, John. If you could either put a link to the video in here or send it to me and I'll put a link up, but that would be good to share with everybody. So again, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll get this posted up for future reference, and thank you for all the participation, and we look forward to doing this again next week. Take care.